Good morning. I'm the Reverend Tony Lorenzen, the minister at the Mattituck Unitarian Universalist Society and the Unitarian Universalist Church in Meriden, where, as Unitarian Universalist community, encouraging spiritual growth and working for social justice. I'm really happy you can join us this 4th of July weekend as we take a look at a bit of our nation's complex and troubled history and how that's reflected in our national songs, and how we might choose different national songs as we move forward to create a little bit more of a just and progressive future together. Being Unitarian Universalist congregations, we open our services by lighting the symbol of our faith, the flaming chalice. Please join me in saying the chalice lighting prayer. The words should be on your screen. May this flame invite us into fellowship, inspire our spirits, and ignite in us a passion for racial, environmental, and economic justice. Let's join in this celebration together.
Hear the pulse of the new day. You may have the grace to look up and out and into your sister's eyes, into your brother's face and your country, and simply say, very simply, with hope, good morning.
I hate a song that makes you think you are not any good, by Woody Guthrie. I hate a song that makes you think you are not any good. I hate a song that makes you think you are just born to lose, bound to lose, no good to nobody, no good for nothing, because you are too old or too young or too fat or too slim, too ugly or too this or too that. Songs that run you down or poke fun at you on account of your bad luck or hard traveling. I'm out to fight those songs to my very last breath of air and my last drop of blood. I am out to sing songs that will prove to you that this is your world, and that if it has hit you pretty hard and knocked you for a dozen loops, no matter what color or what size you are, how you are built, I'm out to sing the songs that make you take pride in yourself and in your work. And the songs that I sing are made up for the most part by all sorts of folks just about like you. I could hire out to the other side, the big money side, and get several dollars every week just to quit singing my own songs and to sing the kind that knock you down farther, and the ones that poke fun at you even more, and the ones that make you think you've not got any sense at all. But I decided a long time ago that I'd starve to death before I'd sing any such songs as that. The radio waves and your movies and your jukeboxes and your songbooks are already loaded down and running over with such no good songs as that anyhow.
Before we were born, a girl learned a song. Her principal, James Weldon Johnson, and her brother, John Rosemont Johnson, had written a hymn for the celebration of President Abraham Lincoln's birthday. The girl wanted to make them proud. She hummed the song all the way to home from school. She practiced it as she did her chores. On the big day, February 12, 1900, she was part of the choir of 500 strong. Back straight, head high, heart and mouth open, she sang. Lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. And she kept on singing as she grew up. She taught it to her students when she became a teacher. She crooned it to her husband as they journeyed up from the Jacksonville, Florida, to a new life in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She sang it when she rocked her baby boy to sleep. It was part of her she wanted to pass on. And her little boy learned the song. He listened to her hum it as she dreamed of being able to teach again in her new home. He heard his daddy sing it when the days at the steel mill wore him down. Then one day he stood in the choir loft and gazed at the glowing faces. Back straight, head high, heart and mouth open, he sang. Lift rejoices rise, high as listening skies. Let the resound loud as the rolling sea. He kept on singing. He sang it. He came back from the World War II and faced discrimination. He sang it when he joined the NAACP. He sang it with his wife and his baby daughter as he rocked her to sleep. It was a part of him he wanted to pass on. And you know what? His little girl learned this song. She sang it each morning at school. Then came the day that broke the nation's heart. Dr. Martin Luther King was killed. The next morning, she saw her teacher cry. Sobs replaced singing, then whispers in silence. Who would lead them now? The song whispered and answered. Back straight, head high, hearts and mouth open. She sang full of the faith that dark past had taught us. And another day, September 24th, 2016, she stood in the crowd of thousands with her mama and daddy, President Obama, First Lady, and generations of one family rang the freedom bell, the dream born a century ago to honor Black lives and contributes had finally come true. The National Museum of African American History and Culture was officially open, with the Washington Monument piercing the sky. That little girl stared at the bronze building, majestic as a crown, as bells around the nation tolled and triumphed. She heard the voice rising too, clear and strong. It was a song she heard her parents sing. Back straight, head high, heart and mouth open, she sang, facing the rising sun. Our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. March on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, the chastening rod felt in the days when hope unborn has died, yet with a steady beat and not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers died. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughter, out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk of the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadow beneath thy hand, may we forever stand. True to our God, true to our God, true to our native land, true to our native land.
My dad was a football player, a football coach, a boxer, and a Marine. He was also a bleeding heart, and I mean a bleeding heart liberal. He was a professor at a state college, and his refusal to wear a coat and tie ended the faculty dress code. During the Vietnam War era, he backed the student newspaper when the administration tried to shut the paper down for publishing things that were decidedly anti-war. I learned my liberalism from him. He worked on John F. Kennedy's campaign when he lived in California in 1959 and 60. He was active in his union. I am a progressive because he taught me the values I still hold. Being a professor, he had summers off. And when I was growing up in the 70s in central Massachusetts, the Red Sox would not put tickets on sale for center field bleachers until the day of the game. So many a day in the middle of the 70s, we would go down and stand in line for an hour or two, get tickets to the bleachers in center field and watch the Sox, and that kind of cemented my membership in Red Sox Nation. One game, we were sitting there, and the Star-Spangled Banner begins to play, and my dad gives me a backhand flick right in the stomach, looks at me and says, "Take your hat off your head." Oh boy. It's 4, 5, 2. Colin Kaepernick started kneeling. Now I kneel too. I know my dad would as well if he were still alive. He would say, "I did not get shot at by the Chinese in Korea so people would lose the right to protest. I got shot at by the Chinese in Korea so that people have the right to protest, even if that means disrespecting the flag and kneeling during the anthem." That's what he would say. That much I know to be true. Francis Scott Key wrote the poem that would become the Star-Spangled Banner on board the British ship Minden while he was there working for a prisoner exchange during the War of 1812. Key was on that ship and he watched the Battle of Fort McHenry on that night of September 7th, 1814. His young country was little more than a generation old and its grip on independence still tenuous. A defeat that night might lead to the loss of Baltimore, the loss of Washington, D.C., or even the loss of the war itself, and possibly the loss of independence from Great Britain. What he wrote, he called The Defense of Fort McHenry, and it was published as a broadside on September 17, 1814. 3 days later, Baltimore newspapers published the poem with a note to sing it to the tune called "To Anacreon in Heaven," which was a drinking song from an English gentleman's club called the Anacreonic Society. The tune was tricky enough that if you were able to sing it in tune all the way through, you were sober enough for another drink. The Carr Music Store in Baltimore published the words and music together, all 4 verses, under the title "The Star-Spangled Banner." The song grew in popularity through the 19th century, and there is record of the song being sung at baseball games as early as 1887. On July 27, 1889, then Secretary of Navy Benjamin F. Tracy signed General Order No. 374, making the Star-Spangled Banner the official tune to be played at the rising of the flag. On March 3, 1931, President Herbert Hoover signed a law making the Star-Spangled Banner our country's national anthem. Francis Scott Key's song was no longer about a triumphant battle, but about a triumphant nation. And his song came to be played anywhere people of this nation gathered: parades, memorials, sporting events. It celebrated our triumph, our glory, our power. We were a somebody among the nations, a somebody made up of somebodies gathered from other places around the world. When Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner, the United States was largely a nation run by rich estate owners and businessmen and others of noble English descent. Women had no official say in the government, and slavery was legal, slaves being 3/5 of a person, and just about everyone still thought of the native inhabitants of our country as, the Constitution says, quote, bloodthirsty savages. By the time the song becomes our national anthem, women could vote. The bloodthirsty savages had been effectively, if not completely, exterminated, and a civil war had been fought over making people of African descent 5/5 of a person. Nearly 100 years into the Star-Spangled Banner as our national anthem now, we still forget about the native inhabitants of the land. A woman still has not been elected president, and we still have to march in the streets because African Americans still cannot get treated like a full person, and their lives still do not matter as much as white lives. Not that Francis Scott Key would care, however. He was a slaveholder and a racist. Lindsay Parker, editor-in-chief of Yahoo Music, wrote to remind us in an online essay last week that Key once said African Americans were, quote, a distinct and inferior race of people, which all experience proves to be the greatest evil that can afflict a community. Whew. A Smithsonian Magazine article by Christopher Wilson from 2016 notes that Key used his office as District Attorney of Washington, D.C. to regularly defend slavery. 19th century abolitionists made fun of his song and called it Land of the Free, Home of the Oppressed. He owned a bunch of human beings that would have kneeled every time his song was played. In a 4th of July piece for The Root online, Jason Johnson wrote, "No one remembers that Key wrote a full third stanza decrying the former slaves who were now working for the British Army in the War of 1812. That part reads, "No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave, and the star-spangled banner in triumph does wave over the land of the free and home of the brave." The 4th of July is one of those national holidays, along with Memorial Day and Veterans Day, where we haul out these patriotic songs like Christmas carols, annual hymns to our American national myths. God Bless America, America the Beautiful, My Country 'Tis of Thee, You're a Grand Old Flag, all songs in the holiday section of the National Hymn Book. You know, I've kind of had it with the Star-Spangled Banner. It's full of violent war imagery, accompanied often enough at sporting events now by a flyover of actual warplanes, written by a raging proud racist, with peaceful Black Lives Matter protesters being attacked in the streets by a militarized police force. You know, it makes sense in a terrible way that the Star-Spangled Banner is our national song. But like a Christmas carol or Easter hymn full of bad exclusionary theology, I want to replace it with something else to sing when the occasion calls for it. Something I can sing in good conscience. One of my suggestions for a new national anthem is Woody Guthrie's This Land Is Your Land. Woody Guthrie wrote this as an answer song to God Bless America, a song he hated. He thought the song told people what they wanted to hear and not what they needed to hear, and that it left out a lot of the America and a lot of the Americans he saw in the migrant camps and while he was riding the rails. So he wrote the kind of song he wanted to hear. His first version of this song was called God Blessed America for Me. In good folk music tradition, Woody Guthrie borrowed the melody verbatim from a song called When the World's on Fire by country bluegrass singers the Carter Family. Guthrie first recorded This Land Is Your Land in 1944 and first published it in 1945. For an excellent source on Guthrie, I recommend the biography Woody Guthrie, A Life by Joe Klein. And most people only know what became the refrain and first two verses of This Land Is Your Land, but the song in its initial form is very long. And in its final version, when first recorded and released, had 6 verses. Many songbooks leave out the verses about class and poverty. In the original version of This Land Is Your Land, Guthrie spoke about Depression-era poverty. The lyrics are, "In the square of the city, in the shadow of the steeple, by the relief office I saw my people. As they stood there hungry, I stood there asking, is this land still made for you and me?" He protested the institution of private ownership of land with the verse, "As I went walking, I saw a sign there, and on the sign it said no trespassing, but on the other side it didn't say nothing. That side was made for you and me." In another version of the song early on, the sign reads private property. Either way, the song is both pastorally purposeful and looks to include more people in all of We the People, and it's much more at home, let's say, in a Bernie Sanders rally with its democratic socialism version of America. And yet, this land being made for you and me isn't without its problems, because all of this land, from the New York Island to the Gulf Stream waters, was taken from the native inhabitants, the bloodthirsty savages, as the Constitution says, who became victims of the manifest destiny practice of genocide. Yes, we want a land made for everyone, but it can't be for you and me until we acknowledge that we are the sons and daughters of trespassers and purveyors of genocide. Maybe, if we ask forgiveness for this and truly begin to treat the land as sacred, as holy as its rightful inhabitants did, maybe we will realize a lesson they did try to teach us, that you cannot own the earth, that it is here, and either you treat it with reverence and share it, or you don't. Another song that comes to my mind when I think about what might be a more appropriate national anthem is Lift Every Voice and Sing, number 149 in your Singing the Living Tradition hymnal. Lift Every Voice and Sing is explicit in its treatment of slavery and the black experience in America. It's an antidote to the whitewashed status of so many of our patriotic songs. James Weldon Johnson wrote Lift Every Voice and Sing in 1900 as a poem for the celebration of Abraham Lincoln's birthday at the all-black Stanton School in Jacksonville, Florida, where he was principal. Johnson was also a lawyer and a civil rights activist. The poem was put to music by Johnson's brother, John Rosamond Johnson. In 1919, the NAACP adopted the song as the Negro national anthem, and from there it became ingrained in the culture of the Black American community. It's been recorded by recording artists through the years from Ray Charles to Dionne Warwick to John Legend to Beyonce. Lift Every Voice and Sing is a hymn found in our hymnal, yet many of the congregations I've served have never sung it. My colleague, the Reverend Aisha Ansano, writes about this song, Lift Every Voice is a very, very powerful song, she says. But it's often sung without context, and at times it's sung without intentionality. When you sing Lift Every Voice and Sing, do you pay close attention to the words? It's easy on a Sunday morning to open the hymnal and sing a song without necessarily processing what it's saying, what the words really mean. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Bitter the chastening rod felt in the days when hope unborn had died. We've come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. This song deserves to be sung with attention, she says. It is a song that starkly names the horrors and violence of racism in this country. And it is a song that should make us uncomfortable. Uncomfortable with the history that it calls upon, uncomfortable with the fact that the struggle for racial justice continues and has not come quite so far as it should have by now. How can anyone sing the words, treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered, without deep, deep discomfort? So when we sing this song, will you join me in singing with intentionality, she asks of us. Will you join me in the deep discomfort that I will be feeling in singing these words? Discomfort with the pain and horror that those words refer back to, and discomfort with the fact that those words do not only refer to a distant history, but also to what is happening now. Will you commit to sitting with your own discomfort, she asks of us? And then will you tap into that discomfort and do something? Will you lift your voice and sing until earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty? I will, and I hope you will too. There's no doubt the Star-Spangled Banner will soon be a song for national identity we must outgrow if our nation is to survive. What national song that new identity will require remains unknown. This Land Is Your Land and Lift Every Voice are two songs we can use as interim national anthems, a team of anthems during this in-between time between the country and its narrative as it was, and our country and its narrative as it can and should be. A song I've been listening to a lot lately describes the difficulty with American history from the perspective of sensitive white people trying to figure out how to move forward. It's called We Americans, and it's from the latest Avett Brothers CD released last fall. And I want to leave you with some of it this morning, and I hope Scott and Seth and their label and publisher will not come after me for using it this morning.
I am a son of Uncle Sam, and I struggle to understand the good and evil, but I'm doing the best I can in a place built on stolen land with stolen people. I am a son of God and man, and I may never understand the good and evil, but I dearly love this land because of and in spite of we the people.
Spirit of life and love, be with us during this time of pandemic as people suffer sickness and death, as families grieve the loss of loved ones. Be with us who feel the pain of loss with them and who are angered at the injustices that are helping to perpetuate this time of disease. Be with the oppressed and change the heart of the oppressor, for we know that both are joined together in their humanity, no matter how often we tend to forget this. Be with those who march in the streets demanding Black Lives Matter. Be with those charged with governing us. Change their hearts so they move funding away from an inherited system of racist policing with a history in fugitive slave patrols to funding healthcare and mental health care and child care and elder care and all things that foster health and healing in community. Be with our country as we struggle to come to terms with our actual and real history and the complex and difficult nature of our national narrative. Help us remember the hope we had, the hope we have, and the hope we will have. Help us remember joy in the midst of sadness, success in the midst of challenges, and good things in the midst of bad. Help us to be better people, to work for better things, and create a better country. A country where all people are truly treated as equally as they are created. A country where we the people truly means all of us, each and every one of us. And a country where freedom truly rings and love governs our hearts and our nation. Amen.
I'm Mary Ann, a member of Moose. I'm part of the Social Justice Coordinating Team, and today is the first Sunday of the month, and on the first and fifth Sundays, half of our collection goes to our Social Justice Fund. We set this up so we would have a mechanism to be able to help the world and take our values into the world. At our last meeting, we decided to send money to Black Lives Matter or Moral Monday. We're not exactly sure which organization was ready. And to our local food bank, because all of the needs in the food banks are way up because people are not working. So thank you in advance for your generosity.
We have been meeting the basic needs of 12 undocumented families. Most of them are two-parent families with children aged 4 to 18. The United Way grant we received to help them is gone. Please help us continue our financial support of these families by sending a donation by check to UUCM 328 Paddock Ave, Meriden, Connecticut 06450, write SJC Funds on the memo line, or via PayPal on the church's website at uucentralconnecticut.org, write SJC in the add a note box.
I ask you this morning to be as generous as you possibly can with your donations during this difficult time. Now more than ever, we need your financial support to help continue to bring you these services online, as well as provide for the needs of our members and the community around us, many of whom are struggling financially during this time. Thank you so much for your generosity.
The Social Justice Council is looking for people who understand and speak Spanish for the work we are doing with the Meriden undocumented community. You can help from the comfort of your home just using your phone. If interested, or for more information, please email activejustice, all one word lowercase, at UUMeriden.org. We also want to distribute masks to our undocumented neighbors. If you can spare any that you've made, please.
As our service this morning ends, we recognize that our service to the world now begins. And being the conclusion of our service, we extinguish our flaming chalice. And even though we've put this flame out, we believe we carry that flame with us in our hearts. So I invite you this week, with that flame as your inspiration, to lift your voice and sing until earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Go in peace, holy ones.
hate a song that makes you think you are not any good by Woody Guthrie. I hate a song that makes you think you are not any good. I hate a song that makes you think you were just born to lose, bound to lose, no good to nobody, no good for nothing. Because you are too old or too young or too fat or too slim, too ugly or too this or too that. Songs that run you down or poke fun at you on account of your bad luck or hard traveling. I'm out to fight those songs to my very last breath of air and my last drop of blood. I am out to sing songs that will prove to you that this is your world and that if it has hit you pretty hard and knocked you for a dozen loops, no matter what color, what size you are, how you are built, I'm out to sing the songs that make you take pride in yourself and in your work. And the songs that I sing are made up for the most part by all sorts of folks just about like you. I could hire out to the other side, the big money side, and get several dollars every week just to quit singing my own songs and to sing the kind that knock you down farther, and the ones that poke fun at you even more, and the ones that make you think you've not got any sense at all. But I decided a long time ago that I'd starve to death before I'd sing any such songs as that. The radio waves and your movies and your jukeboxes and your songbooks are already loaded down and running over with such no good songs as that anyhow.